Welcome back, everyone. Right, I've actually gone and bit the bullet and I've gone and bought myself a new Genoa. It took about 3 weeks in the making and to arrive, but it's here now. So what I'll have to do is get it hoisted and get it tested. The sail I got with the boat was 150% Genoa, and I've always felt it's overpowered and too big for the boat, and I've been trying to stretch the boat to fit the sail. Well, I've given up with that now, and I'm putting on something that I think is a sensible size. I think the only thoughts I've got in the back of my head are how much performance I've lost in the light airs, or how I will be affected with these light airs. Made my measurements, asked a few people in different places, a couple of different things, and decided on how I was going to get my sail cut. Now, with only 6 scan yachts actually out there, and me being one of them, only gives me another 5 to talk to people and ask about the actual sizes of the sails they're running and how they're getting on with them. But I don't know any of them. So if there's anybody out there with a scan yacht similar to mine, and you've got sail sizes that you're running and you're happy with, it'd be nice if you could list them in the comments, and it might help out the other people with scan yachts. Well, that's my new Genoa, successfully hoisted. And I mean successfully hoisted, that's good that it actually gone up. First impressions are, it's everything I want from a sail. Looking like anyway. Twin camber stripes so it can show me the twist in the sail. I've not had that before and I thought it was a really good idea. Also a perfect fit and foil at the front there, comes in exactly where it should. And it all rolls up very neatly away and fits the foil perfect. Okay, now that it's on, we need to get it out and get it tested. So let's get out there. Now the Menai Straits today is not showing a hell of a lot of wind. About 8 to 10 knots on average we've got on windy, which is normally quite good round here. And I've got 2+ knots of tide which will be pouring in against me. So the tide will be running from the left of the screen to the right of the screen, so I'm going to head into the tide and do my test sailing into the tide. Because as you know, Swallow doesn't like going into the wind very much, but that's the way we're going to take her. Now as it is, we're not going to be running directly into the wind. The wind is coming off the bank over there. But I am going to be going directly into the tide, which is running this way. And that will most definitely be running at 2+ knots. So I've got something to try and fight into. Well, the engine's off, so here we go. Let's see if we move and let's see what this sail does. And I'll tell you a few things about the sail which I like already. Well, like any sail, you've got to get to know it. The first thing that I'll need to learn is the lead angle. That's where about the sheet that comes off the clew on the sail runs back to the deck, and it's the little car that can travel up and down the track on the deck. Now as you move that car forward, it flattens the leach of the sail. That's the back of the sail, the leach of the sail. And as you move the car the opposite way, aft, towards the back of the boat, well, that flattens the foot of the sail. The boat's actually started clawing ground now, and I'm making some way into this tide, but I've spotted a green can over there, and I'm running towards the shallow area. So it looks like I'm going to have to throw a tack in, whether I want to or not. So I haven't decided how to set the sail at its best point of anything yet, but I've still got to use it to throw my first tack in. So here goes the first tack with a new sail, and it looks quite successful. But as we're on this tack on the river and it's doing over 2 knots against us, or should I say now on my port side, with the winds on my port side as well, we'll be making a lot of drift down the river. I wouldn't say so much leeway at this point in time, but the effects are very much the same. I should be going sideways and not the way I'm heading, although it looks like I'm going the way I'm heading. If you watch the land carefully, it will be slowly slipping away. But if I wish to get past that first green buoy, C9 I think it is, I've got to set myself out across the opposite side to get myself a tacking angle to go up against it. Right, some of the features that I've had built into this sail that people don't even think about is this is a high clew, and there's a reason for a high clew. One of the things is it's got good visibility underneath it, so if I'm inside the wheelhouse or I'm outside here, I can always see ahead of the boat. That's what a high clew does. The second thing my high clew does is it doesn't allow the sail here to touch wire, only the stainless steel of the pulpit, and then that shouldn't wear the sail, and those are two good features. So why don't everybody have the sails like this? Well, the answer's dead simple. There's a whole load of space I've wasted underneath it that could be sailcloth, and if you were a keen racer, you'd want to be grabbing all that space. And it'd also bring down the heeling effect from the sail as well by lowering the centre of effort in the sail. But my priorities are in cruising and usability. And I think we all know by now that Swallow's not going to win any races, so there's no sense in pushing a cloth to the maximum. In fact, I'm reducing it. She seems to have held her way beautiful through that tack, and she's still moving along. We've still got pace, and we're setting quickly. I'd nearly go as far as to say I can even feel a little bit of acceleration here and now. Not forgetting, for me to actually get anywhere, I've got to push 2 knots plus of tide out the way and make my way into the wind as well to make anything at all over the ground. So for me to see 1 knot speed over ground on my GPS, I'll need to be doing a minimum of 3 knots through the water. Now this sail, I didn't come by easy. I sat down with my CAD system and drew it out half a dozen times. I worked out the measurements so it would land exactly where I wanted it, clear the things I wanted to clear. And I'd drawn it all up, and I just hoped that when it would come to the boat it would fit perfectly. And when I look to where my lead angle runs off with the sail out, I've actually got a little bit room and I'm near the aft of the track, but not completely to the end of it, which gives me a little bit of play in that area. And that's as close to perfect as you get. More about my track later. Now more about what we're actually doing now, testing this sail. Well, here we are sailing. 2 things to read here. The helm's neutral and we're on standby. And the helm's central and nobody's at the helm. It's on standby. It's sailing itself. Force 3 and she's going beautifully to windward on her own. That's what the bottom camber looks like in the bottom set of telltales. And the top one's got a little bit of twist off with a little crease on the end, which I'm not sure about yet. I'll work on that. But the boat's doing what a boat's supposed to do. She's balanced out, she's balanced beautiful, and she's done that with the reduced sail. So she didn't need the big sail at all, because we're in light airs now and we seem to be making to windward at a decent pace. I think everything seems to be setting out quite well, and I do like the twin cambers. And I do like the fact that she balances out really nice and she's sailing herself to windward in these really light airs. Well, we've got at least 8 knots of wind and we're making 2 knots over the ground. And don't forget, we've got 2 knots of current against us. And that's how far up we are on that green can that we had to tack round. We're not slipping back towards it, so we're not making much in the way of leeway either. Even when we're passing it, we're still not slipping towards it, which is a good thing for the sails to be doing. They're not pushing the boat too much sideways, and it did seem to be beforehand. I seem to be losing a lot to leeway. Nobody steering the boat again, and no helm either way. She's still slipping along beautifully. That's why she's not making any leeway at all. She's balanced out lovely. And that means we're on our way to the next mark up the river against the tide and against the wind. And that means that I probably made a really good call and a really good decision to get rid of the big sail. My biggest worry reducing the amount of sail I've got is that my light airs performance would be completely ruined. And as I'm beating at the moment, I've yet to see what it's actually like when I'm running or I'm reaching. The wind's now up at about 10 or 11 true knots and about 13, 14 apparent knots. And the speed is actually picked up over the ground to over 3 knots, which leads me to believe that we're going to windward at 5 knots plus, which is a real goal for me. Of course, until I get my log cleaned and actually get a speedo reading on the boat again to actually know what speed I'm going through the water, then my speeds are just an educated guess. I don't actually know if there's a little bit extra or a little bit less current around here, and I could be reading myself high or low. And also, because I'm in the Menai Straits, the currents do funny things. They move sideways across the straits, like a river flows normally just directional. The straits can actually curl with currents, and they could be helping me thinking I'm also getting better leeway angles than I would normally get. I'm thinking I'm making a much better angle than I normally make, and maybe it's current doing it for me. But definitely, for one thing's for sure, is I'm not underpowered. And also, the next thing that's for sure is I'm making my way against wind and current. And this is visual evidence. We're sailing past the buoy there, C7, and we're not drifting towards it, and we are making way past it. So we're definitely doing something in the right direction. And I've always been able to balance the boat. She just feels balanced easier. This is the first weekend in October, and there's still a couple of boats out playing. It's still very, very pleasant. The air temperature's 15 to 17 degrees out, which I think is a bit unusual for this time of year, but it's keeping the boaters out and playing, and I'm one of them, and we ain't going to complain about that, are we? Getting out here and having fun in October. Well, the wind's piped up and it's blowing its socks off now. It's getting up towards 12 knots. 12 knots is the top of a force 3. So we're doing the top of a force 3. I've got 2 degrees on my rudder angle, and she seems to be creaming along absolutely beautiful. That's 2 degrees weather helm that I'm holding on the helm. My angle of heel now is about 17 degrees. I decided that I should look towards spilling wind or reefing or changing sail plan at 20 degrees and try and keep the boat standing up. So I've turned around now and I'm going back the opposite way. And as you can see, it's easy to make speed going back the opposite way because you're now going with the current and with the wind. Well, I've now got my stern with the wind and I've got to get up back towards that bank over there. And as you can see by the land in the distance, I'm moving quite quickly because the land's slipping along. But the boat isn't actually moving through the water quickly anymore. We're just a bit of drift with a little bit of steerage, trying to make our way past that red can there. Depths are shallow round here. There's a few shallow spots, so we actually have to get round these cans. Although I'm quite sure I need to come down here when there's not a lot of water and have a look where the sandbanks are, because other people seem to be taking different routes around here and not following the voyage. And here's me following the voyage and actually thinking to myself, I've got to get round this red and then I've got to get round the other side of that green in the distance. And I've only just managed to get past here with the ghosting along that I've been doing because the tide's taking the wind out of the sails because we're moving with the tide. And you can see by that buoy there, that's the 2+ knots that we've been going into when we've been sailing the opposite way. So that's fairly credible, if nothing else. Well, this is what I mean about local knowledge. Here we are passing the green can, and there's the sightseeing boat, the Carnarvon sightseeing boat over the way there, completely ignoring the voyage and going his own path. Well, that means it's clear to me that this mightn't be the best route, especially as I've got no real depth to talk about anyway. Well, here's me sail running in really light airs now. I suppose it's going to take a few weeks for all them creases from packing it up and sending it from China to come out. It's a little bit of a reach I've just turned into now, but I've only got 6 to 8 knots of wind and she seems to be making her way through the water quite happily, so I'm pleased. Would you class that as a motor sailor? Got a fair living room sticking up there, hasn't it? Lovely looking boat. Well, I'm just about back at Carnarvon, so I think I'll have a little play. I was on auto for a minute there. I'll go back to manual and I think I'll see what happens when you throw the boat round on a 180, whether she has enough steam and whether the sails will carry her right round on the 180, because she's not pinned into the wind, so it's not like a tack, but we've got to go through a tack while the hull's slowing all the way. Will she make it? Won't she make it? The foresail's going to back a little bit, and there where it backs there, it's going to pull it the rest of the way. So as soon as I see a backed sail, I know I'm more or less going, and that gives me plenty of time to slide it in bit by bit. So I'll get it back in the groove facing the opposite way. And the benefit of this is my mainsail, my inmast furling mainsail, is only supposed to be put away when the wind is on the starboard side. So now I've just put the wind on the starboard side, and as you can see, we're by that C9 green can that we had to tack to get clear of in the first place, just under the back of the boom. I'll just sheet the foresail in a little bit so she'll carry us to windward well. And if you notice, while I'm doing all this mucking round, I don't even bother with the tiller. The long keel keeps the boat tracking beautifully, gives you plenty of time to play around with it, and if you want to adjust the tiller, of course, you can just give it a knock with your knee, your foot, your elbow, your arm as you pass, whatever it is, just to take that little angle of change should you want it. Well, I've taken all the strain out of the mainsail sheet, so the mainsail's not doing anything at all, so it makes it quite easy for me to wind in. But it also means the boat's sailing now again into the current and into the wind with just the foresail, which is showing me the foresail's quite capable at the moment. Although something surprising's actually happening. She's actually slowly turning to windward here with the mainsail going away, so the foresail's rounding it on its own to windward, and as you watch the foresail now, she'll begin to luff and empty as the bow's starting to come round into the wind. Well, I will catch it and put it back on track and fill the sail for you, just so you can have a look at that sail when she's filled and see what she looks like and how she's cut. I'll just grab my hand camera for you so you can get a better view, because the one on the back's got more or less a fixed angle because it's sticking on the pole. So here goes. This is what she looks like. You can see the benefits of the two cambers and how she's set up. She's pretty, isn't she? And quite capable in light airs of still pulling the boat along to windward all on her own, which goes back to the reason that I replaced the sail in the first place. I thought there was just far too much sail there. Well, only time will tell, and how the sailing season gets on next year. There's quite a lot I want to do with this sail, yeah. I've got a few other jobs that it's supposed to meet and a few other things in my mind that it's supposed to work with, and one of them is tacking inside the stays with one fail rolled in it, and I don't know whether it'll work yet because I need more wind than this to actually practice it. So the next time I get a bit of a breeze, that's what I'm going to be out and practicing, seeing what she tacks like inside the stays with the foresail reduced a bit. And that jibe completes today's test sail. So all I've got to do now is roll the foresail away and motor on back into the marina and have a little contemplation about what I've just done. Oh, and I always prefer putting the mainsail down into the wind and putting the foresail down with the wind behind me. Both of them always feel easier in those positions, but I don't know about every boat. I just know they work better that way on this boat, especially if there's a fair bit of a breeze. It's much easier with the wind behind me to put the foresail away, because you can bag the foresail, which gives it a lead onto the roller furling. And that's the sails away, so let's get back in. I'm only faffing round here tightening up the sheets for a minute and putting my fenders out, but by the time I've done so, I've drifted so far past the entrance I have to ferry glide and push my way back into the current to get back into the marina. That's how quickly the water moves round here. And when I get in the marina, there's a couple of boats doing powerboat training. Well, there's a chap there standing on the end next to where I'm going to berth, and I think, oh, he's going to have my lines. That's going to be very useful. But he doesn't think like that and leaves me to it. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Okay, so the only stats I can turn around and tell you at this moment in time are the boat doesn't feel any worse. I can't say it's much better in any particular case. It's just that I know there's a lot less sail area on. I've gone from 25 metres to 20 metres of sail, and I don't know whether that adds up in the imperial heads out there, but it's a good chunk of sail I've taken off. So am I happy with what I've done so far? Well, it's a double thumbs up from me, so I'm really pleased. Okay, this box here, that's how the sail arrived. Boxed, and inside the box was a bag, quite a hefty plastic bag, and it's completely sealed. So it was sealed from damage with the box, and it was sealed from moisture with the bag. Let me tell you where it come from. I ordered my sail from a company called Far East Sails. The cost of the sail I found was really competitive, and I found that you get a lot more for your money. Unfortunately, as the exchange rate goes up and down, this can change one way or the other. First class service though, in every way, shape and form, and me getting exactly what I ordered. Well, I hope that never changes. But what sold me with them is they were willing to listen to me into what I actually wanted. They didn't just want the I, J, P and E dimensions of the boat and decide what sail they were cutting for me. They wanted to know what I wanted, so I told them exactly what I wanted, and they said, we'll build you exactly what you want, sir. So we got on with it. The cloth is a lighter cloth than normal, lighter than a normal Dacron, and it's supposed to be stronger, but that's yet to be seen. So there's some benefit there, but it does sound fairly crisp packety while it's up the mast at the moment, but I suppose most sails are very crispy anyway when they're new. The chap I had contact with over there was called Michael, and I found him really helpful. I do admit one of the key factors of me choosing him was price, and price because you've got to be confident within yourself as well to be able to measure up and decide what you want in a sail and order it. And I wasn't 100% sure, to tell you the truth, if it would fit the boat and be as perfect as I thought it would be when I did it all, because CAD and a boat doesn't allow for curvatures, not very well anyway, and that's where I had to put a bit of guesstimation in it, and that's why I didn't want to spend £1,800 on this sail to find out that it didn't fit. And as it happens, it's a beautiful fit. It fits like a glove, so I'm very pleased with my own work. But more than that, I'm very pleased with the sail the Far East have produced for me, and say well done to them at a cracking price. So until next time when we can really test it properly, bon voyage.